welcome to the Tiga Tactics Podcast, a show about self-defense for civilians by civilians. We discuss all things personal protection, including martial arts, combat sports, and street combatives. Our resident MANs martial arts nerds include black belt holder in 4 different styles, Patrick Vuong.
Greetings, self-defense geeks.
And I'm your other co-host, retired Army Special Forces soldier and champion obstacle course racing athlete, Evan Ultra-OCR Man Perperis. We are not joined by Conrad today. It has been quite a busy month. And before we get into today's topic, I want to talk about some of the stuff that's been going on this month and why we've been so late trying to coordinate and get stuff recorded. So we recently did the runners self-defense webinar. I believe that was on Monday or Sunday. I can't even remember. The time's flying by here.
Absolutely.
What'd you think, Patrick?
I thought it was great. Again, obviously, I was co-host, co-teacher on this one, but you definitely were the captain of this ship, and you did a fantastic job. I learned a lot, even though I already knew pretty much everything that you were going to say. but it's
Right.
weird, like just hearing that different perspective from a different instructor kind of helps me to connect the dots. And so that's, to me, that's one of the really cool things. I'm not a runner by any means. I suffer from asthma all my life, but I can still take those principles that you taught and apply it to when I'm walking down the street, or maybe I'm walking my dogs, or maybe I'm, just with my family walking through a park. All those personal protection principles still apply. And so I thought it was really good. Anytime we do a webinar, I'm always a little afraid of technical glitches and things like that. But fortunately, the internet gods smiled on us, and I think it went really well.
Yeah, it's funny you say that about other people teaching and learning stuff. I remember when we went to Dragon Fest, Conrad went to a seminar. I think it was by Benny the Jet Riquidez.
Oh no, it was Don Wilson.
Don Wilson, that's who it was.
Yeah.
And Conrad came back and he's like, "Oh, I picked up a couple of tips," and I was like, in my mind, I was like, "You picked up tips after like 40 years of martial arts, plus." Right. I was just like, sometimes it helps having someone else teach the material, and you're like, oh, that's a good way to kind of relay the information. So I actually rewatched the seminar today, and sometimes I'm like hesitant about rewatching my own stuff because I'm like, I could have done this better, I could have done that better, and I thought it came out really well. Obviously, I'm biased because I did most of the talking, but I thought it came out really well. I really feel like we crammed a lot of information in there, and it was if you've been to other Tiga Tactics webinars, it was like mostly new stuff. Some of it was kind of like repackaged old stuff, but in a different way. And then if you had no experience, there was still some of like the classic Tiga Tactics foundations in there as well. So
I really enjoyed it, even though I was part of the teaching team. I think I know a few people messaged me separately and said they really enjoyed it as well. If for the listeners of this podcast who missed it, unfortunately, you missed out. It was a live event. You can't register anymore, but that's just a good heads up for next time. If we have another webinar, you gotta pre-register early, get on that.
Right.
You may see it again, but in a different package, so to speak, in the sense of our other programs. We may package it with some of our future programs. I don't want to reveal too much yet. I like to keep things close to the vest, but so there's a slight possibility that if you missed it, you might be able to get your hands on it. But we're gonna reveal that maybe later this year. It won't be anytime soon. So unfortunately, if you missed it, you missed a good one. Sounds
good. So, and the other reason I haven't had time to record anything is because I was in Kuwait for a week.
Right. Yeah. So tell people what you're doing there and why so far away. You're not in the Army anymore, so there shouldn't be.
I'm not in the Army. No, so my professional obstacle course team, I'm the team captain, obviously also an athlete. Kind of getting to the end of my career, but I flew over there for a race. So basically, the race owner, good friends with, and he was like, "Get on a plane, come over here, and I'll put you up in a hotel, and we'll race." So
nice.
Flew over there for essentially a weekend, long weekend. And I ran an 8-kilometer race, which took about 45 minutes. And then I ran a 300-meter race, which takes about 3 minutes. And 8-kilometer didn't go so well for me. 300-meter, I came in third, nice. Which I was really happy with because I'm 42, and the guys I'm racing against are like 20s. Right. And they were really skinny, like super fast. They were running way faster. But what's cool about obstacle course racing is you need a mix of upper body and speed. So they
Right.
were really slow on obstacles. So I ended up catching up and finished third, landing the prize money. So I was really happy about that.
Congratulations. That's so awesome. You're so inspirational because you are literally competing against guys who are young enough to be your son. If you think about it,
Yeah, yeah,
if you had kids when you were in college or maybe just graduated, they would be, they'd be 20, right? So
yeah, yeah.
these kids are, they're in their prime, physical prime, and you're still, you're still on the podium, you're
Holding
still
them
getting
out. Yeah,
medals. Super
yeah.
impressive. Oh, which specific competition were you in? What's the name of it?
Hannibal Race. Hannibal Race is the name of it.
Nice, nice. So I noticed they're shorter distances because you're used to running for 8 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours,
Yeah,
and this is 40 minutes or 3 minutes.
yeah.
So why the change in distance?
It's just the race company. That's the distance they put on. So
Mm-hmm.
I've got podiums ranging everywhere from like 2 miles up to 24 hours. This was officially my shortest podium at 300 meters, though. So my range is now 300 meters to 24 hours. So I'm pretty. And my teammate did the same thing. My teammate came in second, and he's podiumed at 24 hours as well. So he's got the same range now, which is pretty
Wow.
cool. And he's about 10 years younger than me. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's about time to pass the torch off to him. He's better than me.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I'm ready to pass it off.
Wow. How
So
does that make you feel?
good. I'm training. I've been training endurance for 20 years. My will to suffer is less than it used to be. Uh, so I'm excited to do less running and more martial arts.
Right, right. So will you still be involved in OCR in some way?
Yeah, I'll probably still do media, so
Hmm.
they'll still see me around, but I plan on quote unquote officially retiring later this year.
Gotcha.
Still figuring out logistics of that. But
Hmm.
all right, let's get enough running and travel talk. Let's get to today's episode. So today we're doing a fixed blade deep dive. So we did the folding blade deep dive. Want to do a fixed blade. There's a lot of there's a lot of benefits to fixed blade. Real quick, I don't want to dive into it too bad because I feel like we've covered it in other episodes.
Hmm.
So give me a couple of the benefits of fixed blade over a folder, and then we'll start running into specific recommendations.
Yeah, the number one benefit that you get from it is that the moment you grab it and draw it, it's live. It's good to go. There's no flicking of a thumb stud. You don't have to press any safeties, safety switches. It's just literally grab it and yank, and it's ready to go. So you can defend yourself within less than a second. Whereas almost any other weapon or tool, there's at least a mechanism you have to manipulate before you can go live. And so fixed blade, just for that alone, it makes it the number one choice for edged weapons. Keep in mind, though, your the laws. Again, we're not lawyers, so we can't tell you what to do or how to carry or when to use it. But there are certain laws in certain cities, jurisdictions, states, counties, provinces where you cannot carry fixed blade, or you can carry fixed blade, but it has to be open carry, which means you can't conceal it, you can't hide it. And so I unfortunately live in the People's Republic of California, and so I cannot carry I cannot carry a fixed blade concealed, and so therefore I choose not to carry a fixed blade because why would I want to carry it out in the open so everybody can see, possibly wrestle me for it, that kind of thing. It's just kind of weird though, like I'm not working, I'm not at a grocery store working, I'm not a maintenance worker, so carrying around a knife on your belt is just kind of weird. Unless I was to go hunting, then obviously I would.
Right.
But
Yeah, unless you're like in hunting clothes, like at Walmart, like you're
mhm,
about to head into the woods. Yeah,
right,
that seems odd.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm a big fan of fixed blades. I think I'm doing marginally better, if or maybe that's just as bad. I'm in Massachusetts, so not known for their legality of knives.
Right.
But if anyone's wherever you are, there's an app called Legal Blade that you can download for free. That's got a pretty good like initial check of information. I would double check the information, following it up, like looking at actual law websites. But I think Legal Blade is a good app to download to make sure you're in the ballpark before you kind of to start deciding what to carry.
Absolutely.
Let's for recommendation. Also a huge fan of fixed blades, both as a civilian self protection, but also as a utility tool. right? You mentioned you pull it out and it's ready to go. So if I'm opening a box from Amazon, I can pull it out and I don't have to fiddle with anything. I don't have to worry about dropping it, etc. So it's just more convenient, less moving parts. Being in the military, when we have equipment, things always break, right? There's something called Murphy's Law, where it's like everything that can go wrong will go wrong. So the less things that can go wrong, including something simple as unfolding of a knife, I prefer the knife just to come out already as one piece of steel, and then you can't mess that up. So
exactly.
Let's last time we talked about, I think, cheapest to the most expensive. Let's go the opposite this way, just to kind of change things up. So we'll go from like designer knives down to like we're talking like 200 plus or like 150 plus into like, and then expensive knives, so like 150 to 100ish range, and then kind of moderate, so I don't know, 40 to 100, and then like cheap below 40 type stuff.
Yes.
So that's kind of the breakdown we'll do. So let's start off with designer knives, the fancy stuff. Is there any purpose in carrying a designer knife? Let's go with that before you start giving me recommendations.
Carrying them, I don't know. They are pretty pricey. I mean, I've been fortunate to do knife reviews for the last, I don't know, let's just say 10, 15 years. And so I've made a lot of friends in the knife industry, and some of them make amazing artwork that just happens to be in the shape of a knife. And so they charge a lot of money for it because they literally hand make them. They're $500. Some, I know, like the really popular custom knife makers, they'll charge thousands for theirs. And so to me, carrying that around as an EDC tool just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because they're possibly collector's item at the most, and then at the very least, if you lose it by chance or damage it, that would hurt the wallet really, really badly. So I would not recommend carrying collector knives, limited edition knives as EDC. Those are definitely what we call safe queens. We treat them like royalty. We keep them in the safe, so to speak. Because a lot of these are collector's knives, and people literally buy them, sell them, trade them like stocks on the stock market.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I've got a couple of $200 plus knives. For me, knives are like what watches are to some people. Like, will a $250 knife do the same thing as a $50 knife? It will. Just like a Rolex will do the same thing as a Timex. It's a lot of it is like personal preference, choice. It's like driving a fancy, same thing like driving a fancy car, right? Like the fancy car is a little more complicated because yes, they do different things a little bit, but no, to me it's similar ballpark. So I've got some really nice knives. Some of them, like you said, are safe queens, if you will. Like you get a knife for graduating Special Forces qualification course. I think it's a couple $100. I'm not sure because I didn't buy it. They handed it to me. That thing never leaves my house. It's also really big. It's also really big, yeah. But I've got other knives. So Dynamis Alliance makes one of my favorite knives. And they're probably, I think they run like 300-ish. Yep. And honestly, my favorite thing about Dynamis Alliance is not the blade. The blade is very, very good. It's the sheath. And it sounds so ridiculous to be like, I'm paying for the sheath, but you buy knives and like you always just crack sheaths. So the sheath actually has on the clip has this like S curve where you can actually tuck in a designer shirt or a collared shirt, whatever. And there's just like a tiny clip sticking out on your pants. And then on top of that, it's so secured. Like I'm pretty sure my pants would rip before the sheath failed and came out with the knife. So Dynamis Alliance is honestly one of my favorite brands, done by Dom Rasso, who's a retired SEAL Team 6 guy. And
are you allowed to like his knife because you're Army and he's Navy?
Yeah, that hurts. It hurts the soul a little bit. But yeah, we're all on the same team. It's just inter-service rivalry, and it's SEALs especially. SEALs and other special operations units tend to butt heads a lot because the SEALs have very good marketing, and we're a little bit jealous. But we also think we're better than them.
Right.
Although SEAL Team 6 is another tier, so that's he's got a little more legit.
Right. He's got one step up, you could say.
Yeah.
He is a cool dude. I have met him in person. and very very personable and a cool guy.
Yeah. Any other recommendations for fixed blades?
For expensive
Fancy.
fix,
Yeah.
yeah, I have so many, to be honest. Like I said, I've had the honor and privilege of reviewing knives for the past decade or so, and met a lot of really cool people. I will actually continue with the SOF Special Operation Forces theme, and suggest Spartan blades. They were
Mm.
founded by two uh, two Army veterans, I believe. Definitely one was former special forces, but I think both of them were special forces, and so they teamed up to create this company called Spartan Blades. Uh, not They're not super popular in terms of mainstream knife fans, but anybody who's in the industry knows who they are, knows the amazing quality of work that they do. So they have this fixed blade. Uh, if I pronounce it correctly, I think it's pronounced freak, but it's spelled Frike,
Mm.
and I just love everything about it. It's very slim, so you can conceal carry and it won't print on your body. It's got kind of like a modified drop point profile, um, which for those of you who aren't familiar with blade profiles, just kind of think of the top of the blade as dropping down slightly and then meeting at the tip, and then the belly of the knife curves underneath it. And to me, that's like my favorite profile, my favorite shape of blade. It's very versatile. You could use it to slice, stab, uh, chop, all kinds of stuff. And it's not too big. It's kind of like, I would call it like a small medium sized knife. It's about 8.5 inches in length, so it's not so small that you don't have much blade to fight with, but then it's not so big that it gets in the way or that it prints. And it also has a G10 scales, or which basically is the handle material, and G10
Mm.
is my favorite handle material. It's a fiberglass composite material, and it's resistant to almost everything: water, moisture, chemicals, heat, even electricity. So it's kind of like uh, a do all type of material. It's very lightweight. So I really like the Freak from Spartan Blades. They also teamed up with Bill Harsey, who is also a very famous knife designer, and so they call it the Spartan Harsey Fighter. And this is what you will probably see on soldiers who are being deployed. It's because it's a bigger knife, but it's a clip point blade profile, so great for stabbing and slicing. It's an amazing blade overall. It's just big at almost 12. It's almost a foot long. So I
Yeah.
would not would not recommend that as an everyday carry tool. But that one is about $230. I forgot to mention that the Freak is almost $300.
Yeah.
And then Spartan Blades also has an EDC knife, fixed blade, that is much smaller and thinner, and it is more affordable. So I'll go through that when we get to like the mid range tier. But yeah, Spartan Blades, they don't get enough play, so to speak, in mainstream. So I like to throw their name out there whenever I can.
Good recommendation. I also realized I didn't say the name of the blade for Dynamis Alliance. The one I have is the Dynamis blade. It's a double-edged one. But they have several. They have different ones. I think they have a Revere. They have like a slightly smaller one, and they have like one's called Summer, which is like a really small one. But the cool thing about it is the sheath. Again, I'm still talking about the sheath. Like all the knives fit into the same sheath. So like,
Oh.
which is amazing. I was like, if I was going to start a knife company, like he did what I would want to do. The great sheath. I don't have to buy new sheaths every time I get a new knife.
Right.
So their setup, your carry is going to be the same. The Dynamis blade is double edged, so I used to carry it in Kansas because it was legal there. But obviously, most states, there's a lot of states, especially on the coast, where you can't carry double edged. So
Right.
yeah,
And that's a shame, because there's a lot of, as you know, Evan, training in Filipino martial arts, there's a lot of techniques that come from double bladed edge tools.
yeah,
And so we're basically eliminating a whole set of techniques, not necessarily eliminating, but limiting their cutting ability, because you can't carry double sided. But I'm used to that because I live in California. So
yeah.
Did you have any other expensive recommendations?
Again, I'm gonna go with one that I own. It's from Headhunter Blades, run by Harley Elmore, who's a FMA dude slash PSYOC dude slash Jeet Kune Do dude in Wichita Falls, Texas. He's got a blade called the Rat, which is it's a lot smaller, kind of just got a it's just a lot smaller, so it fits in my clothes a lot better than like the Dynamis would, and a little more. If I take that out, if I'm at some like a function and something I need to cut something, and I take that out, it tends to turn less heads than like the Dynamis blade. It's
Right.
a little more aggressive, you know.
Right. But
Like
that cracks me up though. Sorry to interrupt. That cracks me up though because the Dynamis blade, to me, it doesn't look that scary. It's a very functional blade. There's nothing crazy, no crazy edges, and it just looks like a really cool blade. Very functional, but people still freak out, And I think
freak out, yeah.
I call them sheeple,
And
because they're like
if
sheep.
your
They're
blade
kind
has
of
any sort of
scared.
curve to it, yeah.
Mhm.
I used to carry a karambit sometimes, and like you take people like freak. They're like, "Oh my goodness!" It's like it's just a curved blade. It's fine. It's like it still cuts. I don't know.
Right, right.
And we forget like around knife dudes, all that stuff is completely normal. Random people will get freaked out if the blade has like any sort. Honestly, like fixed blades freak out random people. I feel like.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people. I don't know if you want to get into it, but a lot of people, the sheep people, they get freaked out by anything that's fixed blade, and then there are martial artists who call other martial artists cosplayers for carrying fixed blades concealed. So I don't know if we want to go into that debate right now, but it's just an unusual thing to me because fixed blades is to me, would be so natural.
Yeah, I mean, when it's legal, that's what I carry fixed blade. Why would I? Why would I not? I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, when we talked about the benefits, so
yeah.
All right. What else you got for fancy blades? Really fancy.
Yeah, for really fancy, I always point to Bastinelli knives. They're based in Florida, founded by a really cool knife maker who is also a Filipino martial artist, longtime martial artist. And so when people talk about defensive blades, EDC blades, I always recommend his stuff because he's kind of got it all in the sense that he knows how to make beautiful knives. They're amazing works of art. He knows how to make them so they're functional. He knows how to make them so that they're super durable and they don't fall apart. And then most importantly, as martial artists, he knows how to make them so that they can be used defensively. There are tons and tons of knife makers out there who make knives to either jump on a trend or to make them look really cool, but they have no idea how to use it. And so when I hold on to it and I start using it, I'm like, man, the guy who made this has no idea what he's doing. Like they just made it to look cool as opposed to make it to be functional. And so Bastinelli Knives makes the knives that have all of everything. It's a hybrid, it's a mesh combination of all of the positive features that you would want in a defensive blade. And so the owner's name is Bastian, and he makes some really cool fixed blades. I don't know if you want to save the types of blades for later types of fixed blades, because there's like pistol grip and then push dagger and stuff like that. But the one that's more typical, just straight-ish blade would be the Foreigner, and it's got like this super modified Wharncliffe blade profile, which kind of hard to describe, but basically if you want to think about it, the edge part is kind of straight-ish, and then the spine slopes up kind of like if you're thinking of like a ski slope, it's kind of like what it looks like. And the it just, when you put it in your hand, it just feels really natural. And all his sheets are also really well made. The attachment points are really nice. Stays in the belt or stays in your jeans. They don't, like you said, they won't come apart. Your pants will probably rip first before the sheath comes off. So Bastinelli Knives Foreigner is an excellent blade, made by martial artists, not necessarily for martial artists because anybody could carry it, but it's kind of that sweet spot of being a medium-ish knife at about less than 7.5 inches. And so it's easy to carry, but it is expensive at $280.
Yeah. I remember talking to you about Blade Show once, and I was surprised. I've never been to a Blade Show, but I was surprised that when I was like, so a lot of these guys like train martial arts, or they like know how to like use, and you're like, nah, they're basically like blacksmiths. They just like
Mhm.
designing knives, and it seemed really weird to me not
Mhm.
to enjoy like training with the tool that you create. I don't know. It's
Right,
just something.
right. Eh,
What? Okay.
A lot of guys are like outdoorsmen, and so
Uh,
I give them credit because they're making a
yeah,
knife
different. Yeah,
for
yeah,
different functions, right? And so that makes sense. But the guys who make quote unquote defensive knives, EDC knives, but they don't train, it just kind of cracks me up.
yeah. It's focusing on the smallest part of the self protection pyramid there. Interesting. What's the difference? So you've got a lot of really expensive. You've held and trained and used tested a lot of really expensive knives.
Mhm.
Is there anything difference between a $200 knife and a $400 knife, or people just paying for the name brand slash look slash whatever marketing?
Right,
You know?
right. Yeah, I mean, well, that's a tough one because I don't want to offend anybody, but this is generally how I explain it to my students. If you give me a metal butter knife, I will kill you with it. If you give me a $400 knife, I will kill you with it. So it's not. It doesn't really matter too much about the knife itself. It's really the user who
Yeah.
matters most. And I know a lot of dudes who are like they're not just knife geeks, but they're also martial artists. So they're like, well, I got to carry this knife because it's made out of M390 steel, and that's super steel, and I'll cut through like leather and clothes and all this other stuff, and blah blah blah. And the other guys are like, no 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 no, I want 154 cm steel because it's better at this, and they get like super geeked out about it. And I'm like, dude, it's freaking steel. It will go through skin
Yeah.
like butter. Like so, and uh, anybody who's ever trained with Michael Janich, he has the Pork Man, which is basically a pork loin wrapped around a PVC pipe that simulates what a human's thigh is like, and he'll wrap jeans around it, and he will cut through it like nothing. And I think that visual learning tool is very enlightening. You don't really need a whole lot of power, and you don't need like the best knife in the world to cut through flesh.
Yeah. Meanwhile, prisoners are in jail sharpening toothbrushes and still killing people with them. You know. So
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah.
So yeah, I would
Well,
say there really is no difference once you get up to basically 100 to $150. There is virtually, well, I shouldn't say there's virtually no difference, but there's very little
yeah.
functional
Yeah.
difference. There's very
Function.
little
Yeah.
functional difference between a $150 knife and a $500 knife.
All right. Unless you have any more designer shout outs, let's drop down a range to expensive, but not ridiculously expensive. So I don't know, like 100.
Sure, yeah, between 100 and 200, you'd say?
Yeah. Like 120 to 199 ish range.
Okay, okay, yeah. There are a bunch in this range, and they're all really good. I would be happy to carry them. Um, you know, Benchmade, I think stopped making some of the fixed blades that I like because they make mostly folders. Their folders are the most popular ones, and so they stopped making the one that I was thinking of. But also there's companies out there like CRKT, Kershaw Knives, and Boker Knives, and
Mm.
they're all basically what we call production knife companies. Call them production knife because they mass produce them, um, and they sell them all over the world. But there's probably I'd say there's probably like 6 to 8 companies in that same range that make knives around the $100 mark that are super legit, super legit. Um, I was mentioning Benchmade first. They actually make the Adamas, which apparently on their website it's a lot more than I remember. It's $275, but that's a pretty good fixed blade too.
I think they've
Um,
raised prices with like inflation in the last couple of years.
yeah, yeah, because I remember being more like 150, 175. I could be wrong, but yeah, it seems a little bit more expensive now than I remember.
Yeah.
Do you have any
So my
preferences?
my recommendation was going to be Benchmade as well. I've just had such a good experience both as a customer with them and
Hmm.
with their products. The sockpea knife, which is what a lot of guys like in the military carried.
Yes.
Um, Essentially, it's just a sharpened piece of steel with a finger ring, and you can slip it behind your magazines
Hmm.
for your body armor, which makes it very convenient to carry. It doesn't weigh a lot. You can pull it out one handed. You can get someone to back off of you, and you
Hmm.
can draw your pistol without putting down your knife. So I really like sockpea. There's a double edge version, there's a single edge version, and then if you're in an area where you can't necessarily carry a blade, they have a essentially a rescue tool. It's the same. It's the same exact mechanic. Everything's the same. Same
Hmm.
sheet, same mechanics. Except it's not a blade. It's just like a glass breaker and a seatbelt cutter. And you'd use it like you would a flashlight or a pen, like that impact tool. So I really like the sockpea dagger. And what I used to actually carry on my first two deployments was the Nimravas, which is another Benchmade knife. It's got a Tonto design. It's half serrated, full tang. It's really sturdy, and the sheath. Again, here I am talking about sheaths again. Apparently, I really love this. Um, the sheath had like a thumb switch, so it stayed secure, but it wasn't like a snap. So it was easy to remove the locking mechanism off the sheath and then pull the knife.
Mm.
Um, so I liked it, and there were times when I actually used to carry it upside down until I was running towards an objective in the middle of the night.
Hmm.
And after I guess it eventually loosened, and I dropped it on the way to the target. And then like
Mm.
I couldn't be like out there with a white light searching. And I
Right.
wrote Benchmade a letter, and they sent me a new one in Iraq. So
Oh,
the one
nice.
I have now is yeah. They so really good customer service, really good brand. Uh, that's the knife my wife was carrying when I met her. So big fan of Benchmade.
That's awesome. That's very cool.
She was carrying a folder, not the Nimravas. So,
Right, right.
but I yeah, very the knives come very sharp out of the box. I felt like very sturdy, very durable, good grips, good sheaths. Yeah,
Mhm.
so big
Very
Benchmade
cool.
fan.
Very cool. Very cool. And a lot of people ask me if I know any, you know, special operations forces guys who've used knives on missions. And I don't, every SOF guy I know, they just blasted the poop out of the bad guys. Like
Yeah,
there's really no reason why they would need to draw their blade unless you're going door to door and CQC kind of situation. But have you heard of anybody using an edge weapon in battle?
I have. The stories are very kind of far and few in between.
Mhm.
The guy from Fort Riley, which is my last duty station, before I got there, actually won the Medal of Honor killing some dude with a knife. Because he was clearing a house and he threw a grenade, it blew up, and then like the room that the guy ran into had like propane tanks. He was worried it was gonna blow up again, and they got into like a hand to hand scuffle in there essentially, and he killed a dude with a knife. So
Wow.
it does happen.
Mhm.
That like you said though, it is essentially your second or third line of defense depending on what you're carrying, right? Like I've got my rifle. I've got my buddies in the room. If my buddies aren't there and I can't use my rifle at jammed, whatever, I'm probably gonna draw my sidearm. If you're in a conventional unit, you may not have a sidearm, so you may not have a pistol.
Mhm.
And at that point, you would draw the knife. So it's really as a soft dude, I carry a long rifle and a pistol, and then a knife.
Right.
Really, 3 layers deep into the problem at that point.
Right.
Um,
Mhm.
so I've got a book coming out next year, or maybe later this year. We'll see if I get to it. Talking about military knife combatives, and I think a lot of the value in training blades for the military comes with training other combatives, right? Like learning a new skill, developing aggression, learning what real world violence looks like, being able to access something under pressure, being able to think through problems. A lot of those things kind of transfer out to all martial arts, which transfers out to mindset, which transfers out to skill set, right? It's all this interconnected pyramid. I think for me, that's the real value of training knife stuff for military. It's in the secondary benefits. So, not something you would say like you should put higher on your priority list, but it's something if you enjoy, you can use it to develop other skills that will make you a better soldier all around.
Nicely put. Nicely put.
All right. Any other recommendations for 120 to 199 range?
Nothing that comes to mind. For some reason, there aren't. I guess I don't know. Maybe it's due to the recent trend of everything being EDC, and therefore EDC means folding knives. But in terms of that $100 range, there aren't too many $100 fixed blades that I would recommend. You know, you might find some. Maybe our listeners out there can respond to this and let us know what they like. But for whatever reason, that range to me, there aren't a whole lot of options other than the ones that we've already mentioned, obviously.
Yeah. So let's drop down again to kind of medium range. So I don't know, $41 to $119-ish range. What do you?
Yeah, there are again, strangely enough, there are plenty of options in this range. I think I think companies understand how there's such a demand, but they want to keep things affordable. And so for whatever reason, there's a lot of fixed blades that are cheap. And so, the way that they drop the prices, they just use cheaper quality steel, which I'm fine with because again, the whole butter knife argument, it doesn't really matter too much because steel will always defeat flesh. And so a lot of like newbies, so to speak, ask me like, oh, I want to get a knife, but I don't want it to be too big. And so one of the ones I actually recommend is called the CRKT Minimalist. It's actually only $38, so it's actually even cheaper than this range. It's a super small knife, though. You can only get about 3 fingers on it, but it's meant to be like a super last ditch knife. If we're talking about defensive use. But I like to think of it as it's just this little thing you can if it's legal in your state, you can put in your pocket, or you can wear it on a belt, what have you. And you're just using, to me, I would just use it to open boxes, Amazon boxes, things like that, or cut my apple. I'm not going to be carrying it if I think I'm going to go into battle of some sort, but it is, it's so cheap. It's really well made for the price. It is made with, obviously Chinese steel. So that's the downside, but it is stainless steel. So, if you keep it in decent shape, it should work fine for many years to come. Another brand that sometimes people kind of, I don't want to say this because I don't want to tick them off, but I'm going to say it anyway, is that sometimes they get laughed at because of their marketing, not because of their knives, but because of their marketing, and that's Cold Steel Knives. Sometimes their marketing is a little over the top, but their designs and their knives are actually really, really legit. And they're affordable, and they range anywhere between like $15 all the way up to hundreds of dollars. But if we're talking about this range between let's say 40 to 120, then one of the ones that I really like is they have the whole drop forged line. That's called drop forged. But that whole lineup of fixed blades is really well done, really affordable. They're around the $60 mark. So you can check it out, drop forged. Just type that in, and you'll get like 5 or 6 different knives with different profiles, different types of knife genres, so to speak. But there's definitely going to be one that fits your preference. You got survivalist type, you got push knife type, you got more EDC. So some are long, some are short, and those are really well made considering the price. Have you ever played with Cold Steel?
I think some of their higher end stuff is a little bit, and some of their like in the higher range is a little bit nicer. I think when you get towards the bottom of their price range, some of them I feel like get kind of shoddy.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say my go-to in this range is probably Gerber, and I don't necessarily have any specific recommendations. They've got like strong arm is one of them. But like Gerber knives, I feel like are pretty stout, solid. It's a reputable brand, and I don't know. That would be my go-to for fixed blades in this kind of price range.
I agree. They have some, and the name fails me right now, but they have some with skeletonized handles. They're all one piece skeletonized handle, which drops the weight of them, but it also allows you to wrap your own paracord if you want. Those are pretty well made too. I do have noticed, again, not to offend my friends who work there, but I did notice a big drop in quality after they got bought out by a large multinational corporation. But if you find ones with the quality steel or quality handle, it should last you pretty well. You just got to maintain it. But generally, yeah, Gerber, you can't go wrong. They've got some for as cheap as $40 all the way up to 150 for fixed blades. So the strong arm I do like. Actually, some of their hunting survivalist fixed blades are pretty nice too, even though it's a different genre, so to speak. But there's nothing to say that you can't carry a hunting knife or a survivalist knife and use it for self-defense, because obviously it's a knife.
All right. Interestingly enough, so the Army's bayonet, like their official bayonet, falls into this price range, right at the top end of it. I think they're like 120. Actually, not a very good knife. I think it's trash. Yeah. So the bayonet's not even full tang. It's like the blade stops, like a half inch or so inside the blade, inside the handle there. It's heavy. It comes in this like ridiculously over. Again, here we talk about the sheath. The sheath's like ridiculously large and inconvenient. And there's really no. I would say there's no. It's hard to say never, but there's almost no ever need for a bayonet in 21st century warfare. So it's just a ridiculous like. At one point, one of the units I was in, someone had suggested that we carry bayonets as a form of intimidation, and it was like actually on the weapons, and it was like we're not even going to make it a week without someone cutting themselves,
right? Or cutting someone else by accident.
Cutting someone else by accident, or like because every time you get in and out of your vehicle, the tip of your rifle is like rubbing against your legs because it's like sitting between your legs when you're in the Humvee.
Yeah,
and then like the whole reason we switched to M4s, the shorter rifles, was because you're going in and out of houses. So like I want a shorter barrel, not an extra 8 inches sticking off the front of my weapon, and then I can't turn corners. So it's just bayonet. The M9 bayonet, made famous by the military, suffers from a lot of military problems where someone has an idea and then everyone else throws their idea in, and then it turns into like this mishmash of things that's not really good for anyone.
Right.
So
right.
there's a famous clip of there's a movie called Pentagon Wars where they're designing the Bradley fighting vehicle. I feel like, and everyone's kind of adding in their own little piece, and it essentially changes the whole system. I feel like that's what they did with that bayonet, where people were like making tweaks, and then it ends up not being very good. So
right, everybody's got to get their 2 cents in.
Right, yeah, it's got like it's doing too much. It's got like a sharpener on the back of the sheath, and it's got like you can use the back end for like wire cutters, and then it's got like a serrated end you're supposed to be able to use as a saw, and I don't know, it's doing too much.
Yeah.
Do less.
Did we want to get into the different types of fixed blades, the different shapes, or do you want to say that for another episode?
We can save that for later. Let's jump down to the lowest price range before we call it a day.
Sure. I think I kind of spoiled it. I already went to the CRKT minimalist. That's below $40. If money's an issue, I would definitely go with that one. I do like it for the construction, the shape, everything.
Yeah. I don't have any like necessarily specific recommendations. I will say again, you're gonna run into problems with sheaths when you go below $40. The sheath's just gonna be trash. So yes. you're gonna have to find something good. You want to make sure it's full tang still, right? You're gonna run into problems where knife companies are giving you like half a knife and then slapping a piece of plastic on the back. Right.
Yep.
There are some cheap ripoffs of sock P knives that you can buy for like $20. Again, not bad. But again, if I'm carrying something for me, like into combat, it's like I'll just spend the extra $100 and just in case.
Yes.
Like I don't need my sheath exploding and my knife breaking in half when I go to draw it and
Yeah.
when I need it. You know, like I'll spend it. It's fine.
Right.
Um,
Right.
if price is really an issue, you can search Amazon and find some of those cheaper knives. But again, I'd approach with caution. I feel like once you, for me, like $40 is kind of like the minimum you want to spend. I really feel like once you drop below 40, you're starting to get serious deficiencies with handle and blade and steel and stuff like that.
Right. Right. No, that's definitely a good point. There are a handful of knives that do function reliably at the $40 mark, and that is More Knife. It's a, if I remember correctly, it's a Swedish brand, and those aren't necessarily EDC knives; those are survivalist knives. But the knife itself and the handle is really well made. It's just the problem is the sheath. It's not meant for EDC, so they're they're not very you can't conceal them. Uh, it's not going to be the quickest draw.
Mm.
So that's the trade-off. But the knife itself, you can buy some online for only like $20, and they're amazing knives. Uh, you could survive. Honestly, you could go on like a show like Naked and Afraid, survive for 2 weeks with that knife, because they're amazing. Especially considering they're only like $20. So
Yeah.
I would look at that if you're willing to kind of trade off, like you mentioned, the sheath issue. Um, or if you have a friend or you can do Kydex sheaths yourself, then you could possibly mold a sheath for yourself. Uh, uh, but that's more for like a hobbyist, right? There are other brands out there that do work well in this range. SOG, I forgot to mention before.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
They also do
Distribution
higher
stuff.
end knives. Yeah, they do higher end knives, but I feel like they do have several that are in this lower to mid range that do pretty well. And I don't have any specific recommendations right now. I do know that I do prefer their fixed blades over their folding knives. And so if you just went on SOG's website, you could probably find, you could point a finger at any of the fixed blades and they'd be awesome.
Yeah.
And then there's a more recent company called Kaiser, and I think it's pronounced Kaiser. It's spelled Kizer. They are a Chinese company, and they do make their knives in China. But having said that, the ones that I have played with, they're actually really made really well. And a lot of the designers are actually American, so they basically are hiring American knife designers or European knife designers to make knives for them. And
Nice.
and
Nice.
those do those, some of them are very expensive, but some of their fixed blades are affordable in this range. So uh, I would recommend. I would not necessarily recommend all of them, but I would say check them out. It's worth doing some research on.
Yeah, and I'll try to drop some links in the show notes down below for some of the brands and some of the specific knives we recommended. If people are interested in kind of exploring them a little bit further. As always, I recommend, just like I kind of going back to the runner seminar, just like I do for racing, you want to test whatever you're going to carry out to make sure you can access it in whatever type of clothing you're wearing. And then, like Tiga Tactics is built on, you need to invest in, if you're going to carry a knife for EDC, you need to invest in the mind. You need to invest in the mindset and the skill set too, right? So that's why Tiga Tactics has those courses. We're talking about tool set, which is the smallest part of the personal protection pyramid here.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
any other things we need to talk about before we kind of close out the fixed blade episode and do some final shout outs?
No, I would just kind of reaffirm what you said. Definitely try to get your hands on knives and see what they feel like in hand. I know brick and mortar stores aren't as prevalent as they used to be, unfortunately. But if you can go to like a knife convention, a knife show, or just go to hopefully there's some mom and pop shops, hunting stores, sports supply stores, and try to get the feel for them before buying them online.
I know of one store that in Maryland that's like still all knives. Most of the other places that you can physically pick up knives, like you said, are like blade show type things, or military stores. A lot of times usually have a display where they have some knives you can physically touch and hold. So that's another option. All right, what final shout outs, Patrick, before we get going?
Yeah, no, I just want to thank our listeners, and also let them know that in the first weekend of May, we will be hosting the knife and pistol defense seminar, and Evan, you'll be there. You'll be one of the co-teachers. It's going to tackle, kind of what I consider the two nightmare scenarios: being threatened with a gun and being attacked with a knife, and how do you defend against that when you're empty-handed? So a lot of people online are saying some, let's just be honest, it was pretty stupid advice, saying like, oh, just run away or just pull out your gun and shoot them. Yeah, good luck with that when they're already, in kissing distance and already stabbing you or shooting you. So this seminar addresses all those martial arts myths and those fight fantasies, and gives you some concrete, functional, effective, practical tactics, tips, and techniques.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's always good to go to the in-person seminars, and I always feel like I walk out, even when I'm teaching, just getting more reps teaching and getting more reps doing it, and watching other people and being able to, when you watch other people, sometimes you can you see things, be like, oh, am I doing that? Oh, maybe I should adjust that, or like, oh, that guy's doing, driving in with his head a little bit more. Maybe I should do that more. And I always walk out of a Tiga Tactics in-person seminar feeling more prepared than when I went in, which is not something I could say for every Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu seminar I've been to. So,
right. Thank you.
So I'm looking forward to it. That's always the seminar weekends are always some of my favorite weekends of the year, if not my favorite weekend of the year. So I cannot wait, and it is right before finals, so it will be yeah, it'll be interesting for me. I think I'll probably roll right into a final on Monday or something. I don't know. We'll see.
Wow, it'll be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Other than that, check the show notes down below. Pay attention to make sure you're following Tiga Tactics. I'll drop those social links down below. And then if you want more content, you can check out my Patreon over at patreon.com/GreekCombatives. All right. We will see you guys in the next episode, hopefully with Conrad this time as well.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Later.